Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Don Wittman joining us here once again, live on our podcast and Zoomcast. And he's, of course, a consultant at Wittman Technology from beautiful Danbury, Connecticut. Welcome worldwide, Don Wittman. How are you?
Great, thank you.
How's everything going today? Good to see you.
Yeah, the sun is out and it's a
I
nice
know.
day.
I know. It's nice. It feels like we skipped over winter.
I think the less winter, the better right now.
Exactly. Well, pleasure to have you back here. For those new listeners today, just want to remind them, of course, old listeners to remind them, and new listeners, tell them all about these solutions that you bring and can help us take advantage of.
Well, I have my book, which is Ignite Your LinkedIn Profile, which is a do-it-yourself kind of book to help you truly make your LinkedIn profile engaging. And you can find some more about it on Amazon, or you can look at igniteyourlinkedinprofile.com and see a little bit more about my book. Wittman Technology is a consulting company that helps job seekers, individual professionals, lawyers, insurance people on how to get more business and help build that chain of customers so that you can keep busy in the long term. So it's helps a lot. And also for companies so that you're more searchable on LinkedIn, particularly their company page, or sometimes called their LinkedIn page. But it's there's a lot of things for not only the self-employed, but for individual professionals and businesses to help them grow their book of business and be found more by different people who are looking for their services.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. And I know each and every week we have a great conversation. And did you have something in particular in store for today?
Well, I was going to start with the January employment statistics, which were phenomenal, but they were a little different than was expected. A lot of my clients who are hiring people said it's become much easier to hire, and not so much competition in salary and things like that. But the JOLTS reading went from 10.4 million people, job positions being posted to 11 million. So there's more asking for people. I think there's, in some ways, people are coming back to the market. The total percentage of people being employed went up by 0.2%, which is quite a few people. So that may have helped. Things that have gotten better is manufacturing. The work week has gone up to 34.7 hours, which means that's the highest since February of 22 from last year. So, people working more hours, which means there's a demand for work. Mm-hmm. So I expect hiring to be quite a bit robust. And if we look at some of the other areas, healthcare is going crazy. A lot of teachers got hired. Leisure and hospitality was up by 125,000, which is off the charts. And so all of that really tells us that people are traveling, business is picking up, and the need for people is more. But I think one of the things that people aren't taking into consideration is because a lot of companies see that there's a potential for a recession. Latter part of this year, it went from the first half of the year to the second half of the year, even though they're saying if there is a recession, it'll be a slight recession. Mm-hmm. There's a lot more people who want to hire contingent employees rather than pure employees at the first time, or contingent to employees. So I think that's going to happen more. Some of the stuff that has changed is that somehow married couples with kids are finding ways to have childcare. One of the things that's happened probably early in in between the Obama and the Trump presidencies is the growth of multi-generational housing, where grandparents live with their kids, and they take care of the grandkids. So that seems to be picking up again. You know, a lot of people saying is that we need to up the immigration rate to help fill in the lower end of the job scale. That may be true. So it's you know, easing the wage gains makes it easier for companies. Companies don't have to negotiate so hard, so they're actually willing to hire faster. They can find people within their pay levels that they've been doing, even though a lot of companies are still raising pay scales. A lot of companies, actually several that I've done work for, have gone through and looked at making sure that their salary grades and what they're paying people is what the market demands, so that they're not having to turn away people or go jumping through hoops to try and get these people onboarded. Also, it seems also that women are outpacing men in college with college degrees. So we're seeing for more of the senior workers that women are taking those places, those higher positions, much more than men are these days. That the mix is getting more female rather than male, which is a good thing. I mean, you know, way back when I first started, that used to be very much male dominated. Now, I mean, the last company I was at, it was more the upper management was more than 50% women. So
Wow.
that's changing, and I think that's a good thing. Some people don't see the very high ups changing that much, but I think that will change over time. The big people that are hiring are really the small and mid-sized companies are really leading the hiring. The big companies are, I think, are playing the game with layoffs.
Yeah.
You know, I think I mentioned once before that when a company does layoffs, particularly mid-level people, it takes them over a year to recover that money.
Yeah.
Because you have the severance, your unemployment insurance goes up, and then eventually, you know, if you're a growing company, you end up hiring people back.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think a lot of people are using this to, okay, you know, let's clean house a little bit. You know, companies like MCI, where I used to work at one point, you know, every other year they did a 5% end of year clean out of all the underperforming people. I think a lot of companies are trying to do that, and some companies I think no one will admit it, but a lot of people have pretty much said said in their conjecture that they think companies are pushing people out who are refusing to come to the office. So that seems to be interesting. But other than that, I mean, most of that's pretty great news. But the part that I think we want to spend some time on is having people understand that they not only have to, when they're looking for a job, they have to look for a job potentially as a contingent employee, because that's what companies are doing right now. I mean, in today's statistics put out by the Labor Department, 40% of employees are contingent or contractors or type of employees. And it's expected over the next 20 years where that's going to go from 40% to 60%. So particularly when you have a potential downturn coming, companies don't want to take on the extra burden of paying for healthcare benefits, the extra, taxes for people who you hire, that you're going to lay off the unemployment insurance, that kind of stuff, where you can hire a contingent employee and avoid a lot of that. So I see that being a big thing right now.
Yeah.
And people need to prepare it, because when companies look for contingent employees, they typically look more as if you're a rounded employee to a subject matter expert.
Okay.
And a subject matter LinkedIn profile and resume is a bit different than a normal full-time employee LinkedIn profile and resume. Is you're focusing on your strengths. Typically, like a LinkedIn profile for a job seeker would be 10 two-word keywords for their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And as a contingent employee, typically that's dropped down to 5 two-word keywords for that, to focus more and make your profile stand out more as a contingent employee, so that people can hire you as a contingent employee as well as a full-time hire, which is a different way of doing things. And that is something that people need to take into a lot of consideration with potentially going into a downturn, because almost every downturn, companies hire many more contingent workers than do they hire full-time employees. You may be a contingent worker in as a full-time contingent worker for, a year or something like that, but it's still, they look for them differently, and they look for subject matter experts, because that's what they need to solve. Like right now, a lot of companies had not been able to hire automation people for either getting their HR software up to speed to help make life easier, so that they can automate a lot of those manual processes, or things like Salesforce or Oracle Financials and those kind of things, where they get a lot of automation out of it, because it's been so hard to hire those professionals right now. And even getting them from consulting companies, it's been very hard, and they've been charged a great deal of money. So a lot of companies are looking to do that as contingent employees. Part of these ERP systems is how these companies are able to grow. A lot of companies have maxed out their capabilities to do different things, and they're looking to how can we automate this, add more people to bring in product, and reduce the amount of people that are doing back office, because the back office is a lot of times a drag on companies. And using these automation projects, I mean, SAP is one that everybody knows, and things like that, which is a difficult program. There's Oracle, there's the old Siebel, which is really not a mainstream anymore, but a lot of these products require a lot of work to get them up and running. And then once they're up and running, it turns into a maintenance project. So the use of contingent employees to get that stuff done has been hard for a lot of companies to do, because it's been very hard to hire IT people and the business people who know how to run or design how these systems should work in many companies. When I was at pricing, we're looking to move to Oracle Financials. That is, that is a tough system to implement, to get it right and keep the finance people happy and all that other stuff. So a lot of that is starting to happen. Companies are looking at how to become leaner and meaner now that we're out of COVID, and we can start moving forward. People are easier to hire. We can get the right kind of people to do the things that we've been putting off during the COVID-19 outbreak. So things are beginning to change, and people are looking companies are looking to hire people to help with that automation, and much of that automation is contingent, done by contingent people. So I see that in there, because if you talk to, it's like Salesforce complained in their results that companies are slowing down buying their software. The process has become a lot longer, and part of that process is that there are so many other big projects they have to clean up first before they can take on another big project like Salesforce. They're so that's what's slowing down these sales. And I expect that now with the hiring coming, the ease of hiring is back, that will accelerate. And that's a good thing. The same thing that's coming along is, you're seeing inventories for clothes that have been left over from not Christmas 2022, but from Christmas 2021, where they completely over ordered. And now that the logistics chain is working better, that manufacturing is going to have to pick up, logistics is going to have to pick up. People are going to want to go to just-in-time purchasing again. So all those things that have made companies money are going to be coming alive again, and they're going to have to hire for those things. And I think we're going to see that the boulder is now going to start rolling down the hill for companies to try and bring on more resources to allow the companies to accelerate, because that's really going to be the only true thing until they get some of this automation done. They're really not going to be able to grow at the speed they want to. And it's evident at looking out there. I mean, if I look at the number of IT jobs out there, it's like through the roof.
Yeah.
It's even senior ones. So I mean, that work out there is there. I mean, like it said before, nursing is nuts. Nursing was, healthcare was up 58,000 in the last month. That, for something that's been around for a long time, been in need for a long time, that's a big number. And in New York City alone, we're both in the New York area. The hospitals in New York City went on strike because the nurse was complaining there wasn't enough help to do a lot of the work. So I think that's in a lot of places. I mean, even lawyers were complaining that they couldn't get the help for them, and quite a few. So that business is picking up. General business is picking up. So people need to be prepared for this, and people need to be prepared quickly.
Yeah.
Companies are trying hard, hire faster and better than they ever have, right? Because they have needs, and people are still leaving. There was a gentleman on CNBC who basically said that 85% of the people they talk to would quit within the next 6 months if they saw the right offer.
Wow.
That's up 20 percentage points.
Wow. Yeah.
So companies need to be able to take advantage of that, and people need to be prepared as passive employees or passive contingent employees to take advantage of that. Now, the salary gains actually went up. I mean, originally the salary gains, a year ago, were, sometimes higher than 40%. My son's was more than 40% when his company let him go because they were shutting down that department. And he wasn't prepared at all for that. As much as my wife and I were picking on him to have his resume, you should always have your resume and your LinkedIn profile up to speed. And even still, he got hired well within 3 months, and he made a profit.
Yeah.
He didn't lose any money at all. So, and his new salary again was 40% higher. But I don't think that number is going to be back. But they're still reporting people that are in demand, companies are raising their salaries around 7%, which is a good number. Companies are paying attention now. They can't do what they did back in the Obama recession, where everybody was bidding, looking for the lowest possible price. That's sort of not working anymore. Most companies have leveled out, like I said earlier, leveled out what their expectations are for salaries. But from last month to this month, the salary gain went from 14% to 16% when you change jobs. So it's going up a little bit. So the number is still pretty good for taking on new jobs. And a lot of companies are trying to balance it out. The other thing that people haven't, a lot of companies haven't taken into consideration is 35% of women in the workforce are unhappy the way they're being treated by the company. Now, this is not sexual harassment or anything like that. It's just the company rules and guidelines are not helpful to them. They're giving them a hard time, particularly women with kids. And they feel like they're being abused. So there is a group, that's a pretty big group, 35% of women, are saying is that they're looking for something better, something where they don't have to put up with that stuff. And a lot of companies are not doing that. And we'll see, but I think there's lots and lots of opportunity. I see many more women changing jobs than men, which used to be the other way around.
Yeah.
Before the COVID recession, women changed jobs 35% less than men was the statistic.
Wow.
Now, women are changing jobs more often than men.
Really?
So that whole thing has changed around now. Well, they want a better environment, right? They some of them were in bad situations. The company was treating them badly. Now they have the opportunity to be treated better and to get a better work environment. Again, I want to make sure I say this is not necessarily sexual harassment problems. I want to make sure I make that clear. But the environment is really good. You have to be patient. You need to have your collateral up to speed, which is your resume and your LinkedIn profiles for where you want to go.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at things where what I did. People are looking for what can you do for me now, looking forward, and that a lot of people need to change how they look at that. I mean, I'm doing a webinar tonight for a job search group, explaining that you have to stop looking backwards. You need to start looking forwards. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? All right, that's what companies are looking for. The old with them. What can you do for me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's really what people need to start thinking about. So does that make sense to you? Is that?
Absolutely. I'm just shocked. I know we talk more and more about this whole, I was hoping the online working at home trend was going to continue, but you said that's kind of starting to change. People are wanting people back in the office, right? I was hoping that things would be virtual. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Any
it
news on that, or yeah.
It is still going up.
Oh, okay.
The amount of companies that are moving to hybrid work or majority work from home has gone up quite a bit. It's in the last 6 or 9 months, it's gone up 10%.
Wow.
Not 100% work from home. 100% work from home is inching up. It's gone up a percentage point or two. I think total companies that have 100% work from home were about 15 to 20%. A lot of companies aren't disclosing that, but it is clear that it is happening. And I know I'm waiting for someone to actually do a survey to find out which companies are that. I think the problem with that is a lot of families with kids are going to want to get jobs at those companies that allow you to work 100% remote.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you that newer IT companies, I said earlier, my son, little less than a year ago, lost his job. He interviewed a lot of IT, a lot of new companies, right? Startup companies of 300 to 1,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
100%
Wow.
work from home.
Yep.
No office. The only place that they have stuff is where their computers are. That's the only place they rent.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to stay. I think some positions require face-to-face meetings and things like that. There'll always be a certain amount of that. But I think for back office stuff like finance, like IT, some of the other stuff, and even a certain amount of marketing, you can work from home. I think the senior execs want to see face-to-face. So the higher you go, the less time you'll be able to do 100% from home.
Yep.
But hey, when you make the big bucks, life's tough.
All right. Well, I know it's true. Don Wittman, remind us how we can reach out to you, please.
Sure, you can get me on LinkedIn at Donald J. Wittman, and Wittman is spelled Wittman. You can get me on email at don@linkedinguy.com
Perfect.
or don@whitmantechnology.com. And my website is www.whitmantechnology.com. If you'd like to chat, please contact me. I'd love to have a chat with you, and if I could help you in any way.
Great. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here. Enjoy the rest of this sunny day.
You too.
It could be warmer. You have a fantastic day. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.